going to go ahead and call us to order, and we'll let David join as he can. I will state that this is the April meeting of the Johnson City Public Library, and we are holding it electronically because of the COVID crisis pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 16. I will ask Kathy Griffith to call the roll, asking each member if they are aware and comfortable that we are meeting electronically.
All right, each member, are you aware and comfortable that we are meeting electronically? Hall?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Dixon?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Swatzel? Mr. Swatzel? Are you still there? Jeffress?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's at least a quorum.
Correct.
Oh, I thought I had the, just a moment. Thought I had our agenda up. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so our first action of business is approval of the February minutes. If everyone's had a chance to read those, as soon as someone's comfortable, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve them. I read them this afternoon.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that brings us to the treasurer's report. We've got February and March, both the regular report and the Imagination Library report. So we'll have to do those each separately.
Okay, I didn't get an opportunity to speak with Sarah, and there's a lot going on, so I will raise my hand here and get started. This is the operating report for February, and on the balance sheet, that's page 1 of everything. It looks like the balance sheet here. There is a staff order account balance, and that's simply because we didn't get our summer reading order, so we're not going to take the money from somebody's check until they get their shirt. So that's the only reason that there's anything in the liability. And then quickly through the operating account, we are at 75% revenue for February at the end of February, which is a good position to be in. And then if we go to page 3 of the February report, the total expenses are 63.2%. And at the end of February, we should be about 66.7 ideally, which leaves us around 3.5% under budget at the end of February. Are there any questions for me about the February report? I know that's quick, but there's not anything that we haven't discussed or overly remarkable about that report.
So are there any questions, or is there a motion to approve the February financial report?
I move that we prove it.
I second.
One of either Tony or Scott. All right. All those in favor, or any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that brings us to the March report.
Do you want to do the February Imagination Library while we're in February?
Let's do both. Let's do the March report because that's the order they are in our packet, I think.
All right. Let me click off. McAfee's telling me.
Oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It's in our report. We have February Imagination Library.
Okay. As far as the report for February, revenues are at 82%, expenditures just under 60%. Again, we should be around 66.7. We still have enrollments coming in, but we're also deleting bad addresses. And as often as possible, we're updating the children's addresses so that the books get to them. And we're having some success with that. So I'm glad to say that that's working out very well. So unless there are any questions, there's really not much else to say about that one.
That's great. And I know that this is an important time to have those books.
Yes. They are still going out every single month for sure. I'm not getting any audio from anyone.
Kathy's having some issues, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kathy's frozen.
she is.
And
I think Kathy might be gone.
Tony, do you want to call for the next action item
Okay.
until we get Kathy back?
Let's go to the financial report for March.
Okay. And then we can go back and approve everything. The same liability that was there in February is still on the balance sheet for March. Of course, we haven't received anything for summer reading, so that won't happen until the actual order comes in. And then on the financial statement, at the end of March, the end of the third quarter, we're at 75%, which is exactly where we should be. Payroll is at just under 71%, but we have a 3 payroll month coming soon.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
I'm right at the end of, let's see, I'm actually in the middle of March operating account. So we could go back and approve or vote on the February Imagination Library, I guess. But as far as expenses go in March, we did close, the 18th of March was our first full day closed. And revenues, Kathy, we're at 75% in March, which we got the city, the county money, everything exactly where it should be. And then at the end of March, our expenditures are at 71.4%, which is a little, it's like 3% under budget at the end of the third quarter. Everything looks good. Nothing's tracking poorly. Everything is right in line with where it was expected to be. We have some adjustments, of course, to come up because of LSTA grants and for various other reasons. But as far as the March report goes for the operating account, there's really, the line items are still where they've been for the most of the year. But by and large, we're in a very good position.
Just for the record, is there any savings that we're accruing because of the closure?
We do have some savings in various areas. We've got building operations. We'll have some vacancy savings, some payroll savings. So yes, that definitely will happen. We will open back up. Things will have to start over. But I think at the end of the year, we just haven't been there. There should be some savings in different areas. I haven't really had a full month's worth of utilities yet since we've been closed, and I'm kind of anxious to see how that tracks at the end of that first month.
I think I would just ask that once we're back open and back to semi-normal, it'd be interesting to see a report on that impact.
Sure, absolutely. I'm curious about that myself. I agree.
Well, can I ask a question? It's Susie.
Hi, Susie.
Did you all follow anybody so they could apply for unemployment benefits?
We did not. No, we treated this much in the same way we would have a weather-related closure.
Okay. I just was curious.
Kathy, are you still
Sorry.
here?
I'm here. I hit
ya.
my video button accidentally.
Okay, so
My dog was barking, so I muted, but
were there any questions about the February Imagination Library report? Because I'm ready to, if you're ready to call for a vote, I'm ready to take down the info.
okay. We'll do the February Imagination Library and then the March financial. Is there a motion to approve the February Imagination Library financial report?
I move to approve it.
Sarah?
Yes.
I got Sarah's
I
motion.
second Susie.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. That leads us to the March financial report. Are there any additional questions for Kathy?
I move we approve it. I'll second.
Is there a second? Okay. Tony and Scott. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that leaves us March Imagination Library.
Okay. We did get a little miscellaneous revenue in, so we are at 82% revenue at the end of the third quarter and 67% expenditure. So we're 7.6% under budget. I think with the census coming up, with things happening, we're going to have even more enrollments. We're getting enrollments still from the birthing hospitals. That hasn't changed. So I do look for that to go up. It's not going to be 100% by the end of the year, not by any means, but I do think that it will be closer to the budgeted amount. So that's pretty much it for the March Imagination Library report.
Should we start saving now for the baby boom in 5 years?
You know what? I think we should. Yes, well, in about a year, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the baby boom. I was thinking schools, so entering
yeah.
kindergarten and
Imagination Library too.
That's right. That's right. Although, okay, so are there any questions on the March Imagination Library report? Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve.
Okay, we'll do Susie and Jennifer in some order.
Gotcha.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. That brings us to the director's report.
Okay. Well, there is and there isn't a lot to report. Of course, the library closed to the public on March 18th. I'm glad we closed when we did, because we realized after talking to other directors that everyone was looking to us. So when we closed, everyone closed as far as libraries in the area. And by Friday, things were really shutting down all over the area. So I feel confident with our timeline so far. At this point, the staff has been putting out digital content in a variety of ways. We've been doing some story times. There's some legality issues with regard to digital story times, so we're navigating that and have found a way to be able to post, but leave them posted temporarily. That will help us stay within copyright law. So Mandy in Youth Services has done a tremendous job with that. We've done different book talks. The teens had a Zoom book club meeting and some different things like that. So we are out there and active. One of the things that we planned for and then learned later is the expiration of library cards. So we knew that we wanted to bump expiration dates. We just didn't know for how long or how far back. So that took a little bit of noodling through, but we did go ahead and renew all library cards that expired after January of 2019 to go further back, so that more folks, because what we realized is people who had already expired, maybe like in the fall, were now very interested in coming in and using their library card for digital content. So once we got that under control, things really quieted down in terms of the public reaching out to us for those emergency cards. Another new feature is that folks can register for the Libby app using just their mobile telephone number now. So if someone reaches out tomorrow and wants to get a library card, we can say, if you're looking for digital content, everything on Tel, you don't have to have a card for, and then anything you want through Libby or Overdrive, you can do with your cell phone number now.
That's great.
We've been soliciting frequent questions from the public, reference needs to kind of set up a FAQ kind of thing, but honestly haven't had a lot of feedback yet on that. So I think most folks at this point are sort of settled into their routine and reaching out to us when they have isolated needs. We haven't fielded a tremendous amount of phone calls or questions about reopening, I think because they knew that until Governor Lee's stay-home order expires, that's not in the cards for us. So at this point, the management team and I have been discussing what a reopening strategy is going to look like for the library. We know that it will be a tiered plan. I don't think we can open and just have business as usual with story times and programs and all of that. So we're trying to figure out exactly what the safest path will be for staff and for the public. When we come up with that plan completely, I'll let you know what it is, and we'll reach out to local media outlets to make sure folks know what to expect after the stay-at-home order has expired. One thing that I think will surprise people is that after the stay-home order expires, we need a couple of days to get the facility ready. There's a lot of shelving that needs to be completed. There's a backlog of just daily items. There's a lot of holds that need to be pulled from the shelf before we are ready to open for the public. So we'll see. And I know, every time we start to talk about dates, something changes. So I don't really like talking in those terms anyway, but we're really hoping to be open the first week of May, unless things change. So we have started talking about the summer reading program and what that will look like. We know that we are not going to be hosting any large events over the summer, so we have planned to cancel all of our large on-site programs. So we won't have any of the animal shows or big performers and that kind of thing that we usually have as part of summer reading this year. So what we've decided is to kind of back off of that style program and focus very heavily on Summer Slide, which is now COVID Slide and Summer Slide. So we feel very strongly that our role moving forward throughout the summer months is to help kids stay on grade level, stay on or as close to grade level as they possibly can going back to school in August. So we are using a digital platform called Beanstack, which is new to us. The kids will read, they get like digital badges, and there's going to be a heavier than usual emphasis on prizes. But we really think that it's going to help keep energy up for the act of reading throughout the summer months for children. So like I said, there's less emphasis on even digital program that we create throughout the summer months, because I think that by then there'll be some burnout on visual story times and presentations and things like that. So we'll do a little, but not as much as we're even doing now. The focus is really going to be getting the kids reading the materials, logging those books to try to stay on grade level. So that's where we are now. We're, just like I said, designing next steps. I'll keep you in the loop when we get to that point. I'm really excited to see stats on the coming months. I have some preliminary data for Overdrive usage in March. I don't have the full RB Digital stats yet, just because of our presence in the building and that kind of thing. But I know that we finished March up at least 20% above the previous year circulation for collections, and that didn't include anything that we do through RB Digital. That was just the Overdrive data. So unfortunately, we don't have a way of tracking those folks who register using their cellular phone numbers. We only can track our users using their library cards. So that's a bummer, but it'll be fun to see in Overdrive how many unique users we have throughout that period. We can see what kind of materials they were looking at, so we know if it was a lot of like chapter books for kids, picture books, or adults reading these kinds of things. So it'll be a really exciting opportunity, as Tony said, after this is all over, to really reflect on what we did right, what we could have done better. I'm really proud of the work that our staff has done so far throughout this process. I think we've handled it as well as any library in the nation, frankly. Are there any questions?
I just want to say I appreciate the staff's work and your work, and I know it's uncharted territory, and I also so much appreciate Tony kind of having that, urging you to get in place the policy, and so making those decisions became much easier as we were entering this.
Absolutely.
Building issues, or is Mike or you checking the building on a regular basis?
Yeah, we're a staff member is going to the building every day to get the book drop, which we have slowed down on, but because of like deliveries from UPS and the facility itself, we do have someone going to the building once a week, at least on the weekdays. It was more frequent, but now that the book drop has slowed down, we're there Monday through Friday. We had the folks starting to weed the beds this week because the garden area behind youth services was starting to look like Jumanji. It was just, all this rain, and you don't want to get too behind on your weeding.
Sure.
But the grounds look good. The mowing crew has started up. So, the building, we were lucky. We were actually really fortunate because with the recent rain, we didn't have any new leaks. So that would have been a rough
Yeah,
rough
I was
occurrence.
wondering about that.
Any other questions for Julia?
I want to ask a question. It's Susie. Does the summer reading program for young people dovetail with the school requirements for reading?
No, our program exists independently because we have children that participate just for a few months when they're visiting relatives. We have homeschool families. So, and then with the two different school systems, it's designed to be more open-ended. So it's either based on the number of minutes a child reads or the number of materials a child reads. But
Oh, okay.
teachers, of course, could send, I'm sorry, to be clear though, some teachers do give their students reading lists, and we do have access to those ahead of time and ensure that we have those particular titles. So in that way, it is a bit of a collaboration.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Julia. President's report, I haven't been very presidential in the last month other than checking in and making sure Julia and the staff is doing okay. And again, I appreciate it. I saw Betty Cobb out walking today. So I don't really have anything to report. Nor do I have anything to report from the Friends of the Library. We're waiting to see what happens. Our book sale was scheduled to be the last weekend in April. That's obviously not happening. We were looking at expanding hours, but we're going to really need to see what happens to see when we feel comfortable taking in large amounts of material and touching everything again. Especially our board is, many of our board members would fall in an at-risk category. So we will be meeting sometime in probably May, perhaps by Zoom. So keep posted on that, but that's, I think our membership continues to do okay. Are there any questions of me about the Friends or anything else?
Kathy, can you hear me?
All right. I can now, yes. Is that DJ?
I'm here, but I don't know what's going on. I've done Zoom quite a bit in the last few weeks, and it won't open this meeting for me at all. So I had to call by phone.
Okay, this is David. Okay.
This is David. Yes, this is David.
Okay.
So I'm in the meeting, but I missed about the first 10 or 15 minutes because I was trying to, it took me about 15 minutes, and I finally just decided to call.
Just called in.
So I'm here.
Well,
and I was wondering, I noticed that there was, the VP appointment was delayed until the March meeting, and the March meeting didn't happen. So I guess that's still something that will be discussed in today's meeting. Is that correct?
Probably, yes, under old business, which is where we are right now.
Okay. So I just wanted to let everybody to know that I am in the meeting, but unfortunately, I don't have the Zoom going.
That's okay. We've got Susie on audio only, and we had DJ at the beginning, but he may no longer be there. Julia, can you see if he's still present?
I see him present, yes. His number still appears.
Okay. So that brings us to old business. There had been some talk about appointing a vice president, and it's not for much longer anymore because there'll be new officers in August, I would say, or July. Remind me.
July is the new fiscal year.
Yeah. So for the next few months, and David was going to consider whether he was willing to serve in that role for the remainder of the year. And David, have you given that thought?
I have given it some thought, and now that the schools are canceled and I'm not driving, I'm only working part-time. And there was another thing I had applied for, a supervisor position, but that has been put off for I don't know how long. So I'm willing to step in as the VP, for the next 3 or 4 months, however long that is, if everybody's in favor of that.
Okay. I can't remember. Is there a nomination for David as vice president?
Yes, I will nominate David. Totally.
Okay.
I will
Second.
Thank you,
All
Tony.
right. There we go.
Yeah.
Sarah and Susie seconded, so we're good. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, David, for stepping in. Again, it shouldn't be a lot of work unless I can't be here for a meeting.
Okay.
And I don't seem to be going very many places right now.
You're not going too many places right now.
No, that,
Yeah, I don't think any of
I'm
us
not.
are.
That brings us to, I don't believe there's any other old business unless there's something that someone wants to bring up.
I did have a question. I was reading about the departure of Mr. Kraft, and I was wondering if there was progress on a search for his replacement.
The week we closed the building, we had scheduled interviews for his replacement. And so we've contacted those candidates and said that we will reach back out when we do reopen the building. But we thought best not to take on new hires during the closure.
Okay, so you have some new candidates, but you put off the interviews.
Yes.
Okay, well that's progress.
All right, that brings us to new business, and there's a budget revision in your packet.
I'm writing and now stop.
Okay.
This is one of those things where part of this is because we are closed, and some of it is that our revenues, if you're looking at the account codes that start in 4s, much of the time, actually for the last several years, our revenue that we're generating is decreasing. I think we're doing such a fabulous job getting materials back and letting people know when things are due, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all, because our circulation numbers are up, and I think it's reflective of the fact that we're not taking in that many fines. So that's not bad at all. Other areas, it's just not, we're not going to make the projected amount that was approved last July. And other things in that revenue part, the LSTA grant, that's a zero budgeted amount at the beginning of the year because we don't know how much we're going to get. And then as far as the FOL donations, we've been talking about that prior to closing, and there's a corresponding amount of money in expenditures. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to do all of that, but whenever there's a revenue stream from the Friends of the Library, there's a corresponding expenditure, and that does total $15,500. This is a projected amount, and I have a feeling that by the end of probably at the June meeting, there could be a second proposal necessary, but that's why that 15.5 is in there for the Friends, and we don't know what we need or what's coming up. Julia may want to speak to that more, but there is a corresponding expense, so that increases total revenues to $26,450. And before I get to any farther, this is a zero increase. The expenditures are that exact same amount. This is just moving money around to where it needs to be. Areas where we knew we were going to have to move, say for example, Celeste Peck, when she became the circulation services manager, moved from Department 2 in payroll to Department 1. So there's a little bit of switching around of funds just to get people where they need to be. But if you go on down to the expenditures to the personnel section, there's a net decrease of $38,800. Part of that's vacancy savings. Some of that is actually, I guess the bulk of it's vacancy savings. And with medical insurance, where we had some retirements, after a certain age, when someone retires, that amount going away could be significant. It has added up and it's helped. And as we bring new people back on and we get fully staffed, of course, that will go back to the original amount in the new fiscal year. But the net decrease in personnel expenditures is $38,800. And then in support services, we needed to add some money for PR for our 125th anniversary. Things are on hold with that as well, but there's only a net increase of $3,700 for support services. And some of those things we already purchased. We purchased some mugs and book bags and pens. We'll use that stuff throughout the year. So that's not something that we weren't aware of or that wasn't going to happen anyway. And then as far as building operations go, it's an increase of $1,000 for building improvements. We got that lovely chain link fence around our mechanical area, and it's worked very well. And Mike Schwartz needs a little bit of paint and a little bit of elbow grease to get that thing painted black. So it kind of matches the rest of the aesthetic maybe. So that's just allowing him some money to get that thing finished. But otherwise, building operations should remain pretty much stagnant. I don't see any problem there. I took some money from David, OMB and Technical Services, we're getting fewer physical materials, so I think it's very fair to take $1,000 from his processing supplies, and he's not even at really 50% expenditures anyway. And then the last page of the proposal goes into the materials expense. The really cool thing is seeing all these ebooks added, and I think we're going to reap the benefits of that, you know, ongoing, because those things aren't going to go away immediately, and we're going to have a lot of ebooks for people to check out on throughout the year. So there's an increase of $12,050 for that. And then you'll see the FOL expenses in there, $6,000, $6,500. And it's moving money around just where we need it again for materials and services. The big chunk that we're looking at here is the LSTA grant. That's a 50-50 matching grant. That $19,000 we have to put the same in, so that had to increase to compensate for Eric's new computer lab for the AWE computers, and then we had one other thing that was purchased with the grant money, and the computers are at the library. Yay! So we Eric's pretty happy too. And then going on down to the miscellaneous, we're not going to need the police officers, but we haven't needed them while we've been closed. So some money came out of there. The Friends of the Library miscellaneous, you already bought that lovely cart. Thank you. That's getting some money to fund that. And then of course we have that ETSU Elevates grant expense. That will probably go over, as a matter of fact, I'm sure it will go on into a fund balance for the new year. And so that Caitlin can get that program going probably in the fall. So that will be one of those assigned fund balances that will roll over into the new fiscal year. So if you're looking at the bottom line here, we have a total increase of the exact same amount, revenue, expenditures, for a net change of 0 as the bottom line. We're still looking at spending, well, we didn't have our author event. That was what was going to be used for the balance of some other funds, but that's still in the plans as well. We'll roll that over into an assigned fund also to make sure our auditors are satisfied with everything that's been earmarked for something. So that balance sheet will show assigned for whatever at the new fiscal year.
So at the new fiscal year, you'll have some reserves for events like the author event. So
absolutely,
okay.
We'll make sure that that's earmarked for its original intent.
Okay. Any questions about the budget amendment? Is there a motion to approve the budget amendment?
So moved. Tony.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, David.
There is David.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
actually on
he's here.
Zoom now. Thanks to my wife, who's a little more tech savvy than I am.
All right. If there's no other questions or discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. That is the end of our agenda. Anything else people want to add before we adjourn?
I award Jennifer the award for the best background photo.
Realized that a little bit ago. I was like, oh, wrong place, but this is the place where my
I love it. It's great.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a good picture.
Thanks.
That's lovely.
I'd like
Well-
to ask a question about Imagination Library.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way that we could see where all the children that are getting these, where they live? I'm not talking about specific addresses, but like little dots where we can see where they're heavily populated and receiving all this wonderful books.
We can actually do that by zip code, and we've done that in the past. Right now, the bulk of the enrollments are city children. I think when I last looked, 3,100 roughly of the 5,300 children are listed as city, which would leave the balance as Washington County. Of course, they're all Washington County residents, but roughly I would say in the 3760401 1-5 area, about 3,200, and then farther out in the county, again, I would say 2,200 kids. But if you want specifics, it takes us a little while to extract that data from the database, but we can make that available.
Oh, I don't have to be that specific. I was just more curious than anything as to how broad-based this was. Now, do I understand from what you just said that we do not enroll children that don't live in Washington County?
Actually, we don't enroll them into Washington County, but the thing that Celeste Smedley does is when she goes to the birthing hospitals, she will pick up enrollments for other counties. If there's someone where she can mail those enrollments to them, she'll do that. But Celeste is enrolling a lot of babies that are in other counties, but she enrolls them in the county in which they live.
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
It's a lot of work, and Celeste Smedley does a fantastic job. Kudos to her for keeping that database going.
Good.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
So for the next meeting, I'm sure that we'll be informed about whether or not we're doing Zoom or in person.
I think as we all have learned, things can be changed daily. So we'll wait till we get a little closer. But thank you everyone for taking time to be here today and figuring it out. Hi, Sarah. Is that a bye?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say bye to everybody. It's great to see your faces, to have our meeting together. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.
Thank you.